And that's you probably know this better than I, but there was the recent example, I think in the last 12 months with Brewdog, the beer company in the UK actually, which was exposed that some of their staff had made various complaints about certain practices. Some of them I think are potentially still or have been either proven or disproven in court, so we can't sort of speak too openly about it. But that was probably a good example where B-Lab got wind of obviously a huge issue within a business that was a certified B-Corp, and then very quickly investigated it there and then. And I think actually, if I'm not mistaken, they're no longer a B-Corp. And I don't know if that was a part of they lost it or Brewdog decided to walk away from it. But that's where, as you say, you can be certified for 3 years, but there's still a bit of a check and authority there that if there's any sort of, malpractice, then it will come down on you.
Yeah, and on top of this, maybe to add more information for people that does not know how the B Corp certification works, once you become B Corp certified, one of the mandates is that you need to communicate this in all your communications. So your website, for example, you have to pledge what is your impact. I mean, a great example is your website. Maybe you want to give a summary of what you had to change. So everybody knows. It's publicly known. It's publicly information known. Also, the report is seen by everybody. Okay, the highlights, not all the answers of all the questions, right? So anyone could go and say, okay, well, this is not actually true. And they can raise a complaint, right? So it's not like all the information is confidential. It's publicly open to everybody.
Okay, I like that. Public shaming, I like that. It's no, it's a big thing because if you don't call the MNCs out, because it's funny, Ben and I were talking about this, I think just a couple of days ago, where we saw this post on LinkedIn where they said individual actions don't count for anything, right? So we can keep saying, hey, don't bring your coffee cup, buy, get a reusable bottle and all of this. But it comes down to the corporates because they are the ones who generate the most waste, the most carbon, emissions, right? They create all of these problems. So it comes down to solving that problem first. And this is where you guys come in, go to a corporate and say, look, this is what you're doing wrong. And that's where the consultancy part comes in, right? You help them navigate through the B Corp.
Exactly. And if I can just comment to that, that's why B Corp is so powerful, right? Because it's not only about the certification, but it's also about the assessment itself. Because it's available online for free. Every company can go there and use it as a framework to become a better company. Of course, it's great if you have the ambition and want to get the certification, but you can use it as a tool to identify gaps in your business where you could actually improve and then set up an action plan to close these gaps. And then maybe at some point you're ready for certification, which is very motivating for everyone involved. So I just read recently that almost 250,000 companies are actually using the B impact assessment for this type of ESG measurement and reporting. So that's great, right? It's not only about the certification; it's the power this framework gives you as a company to improve.
I like that.
And also, to flip it on its head as well, it's not just the negative. I mean, it's exposing all of the malpractices, consciously or unconsciously. But actually, what I found quite rewarding from it personally was actually looking at the good and going, consciously or unconsciously, we were doing X, Y, and Z in terms of the supplies we were using, locally based community, like our suppliers were, I think, over 40%. The placements that we made as a business were over 55% from underserved backgrounds. So even though it's there to sort of, monitor, improve the business, it's also quite a rewarding exercise to actually look back at the impact you've made as a business, again, consciously or unconsciously, to then sometimes, this is where it becomes quite interesting in the context of sustainability. It's also recognizing the bad, but also looking at where you're continually making impact as a business and rewarding yourself in that. Remember those moments, because in a world of noise where it feels like doom and gloom, the road to COP, there's huge expectation. It's taking those small wins and looking at the positive and building on from that rather than, I'm sure I'm not sort of, sticking my head in the sand, so to speak. But, obviously sort of recognizing the small wins and continuous improvement. That's what I quite like for the B assessment.